This video is on subtotals, and they explain it in the book, but it's actually a lot easier than how they explain it, which is why I'm going to make a video on this here. So subtotals are used with data lists, and if you remember when we did sort and filter, we did data list, and a data list has to have a row heading with basically titles, and then consecutive information inside of that. So graduated is either yes or no, Y or N. Highest education is AA, AS, BA, BS, or HS, and no other data, and department has to be consistent in what you name these things. One thing that would have made the exercises in the book easier is if we assigned a range name to the data list. So I'm going to do that here. So I'm selecting all my data in my data list. Remember, a data list cannot have blank columns or rows inside of it. And then I'm going to give it a range name of data list. That way I don't have to keep reselecting the values, which is what they told you to do in the book. So I'm going to select data list. So what a subtotal is if I just sort by a value, like graduated, it would have all the yeses together and all the nos together, but it wouldn't give me any cumulative information. But what a subtotal will do will give you cumulative information. So I can say if you graduated, what's your average hourly work? Or if you didn't graduate, how many total hours did you work? So it gives you more information than just the sort. So for the first exercise, this is on page 2 of the handout. I already saved it with a new name. I'm going to insert subtotal by department. So the first thing you have to do is you have to sort by the field you're going to subtotal on. If you don't sort, it's going to give you wrong data. It's going to do it correctly, but it's going to give you the wrong answers. So click anywhere in my department column. I'm on the data tab, and then A to Z. So now I have all my accounting together, all my business together, all my finance together. IT, marketing, and purchasing. And what a subtotal will do, it will do a break when it says, when I go from accounting to business, that's a break, meaning it changed the value in this column from something to something else. That could even be a typo. And once I do that, it'll give me a subtotal of the previous records. So when it goes from business, when it changes from business to finance, it'll give me a subtotal on business. And when it goes from finance to IT, that's a break, and it'll give me a subtotal on finance. So that's the benefit of subtotals. So I've already sorted my data, and then to get subtotal, it's on the data tab. Very last option is subtotal. This hasn't changed in a long time. At each change in, click on the down arrow. It gives you a list of all your field names, which is in row 1. I sorted by department, so I want a subtotal by department. At each change in department, or when the department breaks from accounting to business or business to finance, this is when I'm going to get the subtotal. Use function. I have a lot of options. I have sum, count, average, max, min. I'm going to start with sum. And then add subtotal to, again, it gives me a list of all my fields. And then whatever I turn on, that's what's going to subtotal. So I want to subtotal hours worked. By default, it picks the last one. So at each change in department, which has been sorted, use function sum, and then add subtotal to hours worked and weekly wages. So what it will do is it will give me a total for hours worked and a total for weekly wages. Replace current subtotals turned on. That means it doesn't give you lots of subtotals. Page break between groups is turned off. We'll do that later. Summary below data is turned on, which means it'll give me the grand total at the bottom instead of the top. And then hit OK. What it does is it has all the accountings, and then when I break from accounting to business, it gives me an accounting totals, this total because I said sum. And then I turned on hours worked, it gives me a sum of the hours worked. And I turned on weekly wages, it gives me a sum of weekly wages. Business to finance, business total. There's my sum of those two fields that I checked. Finance to IT, there's my finance total. There's the fields I checked. IT to marketing, there's my IT total. Fields I checked, etc. And then at the very bottom, you have a grand total. Grand total always shows up at the bottom by default. And then over on the left side, you've got 1, 2, and 3. This is what Excel calls grouping. So when I selected sheets, I called it grouping because it said group in the title bar. But if you look up grouping in Excel, they're talking about this. So level 3 is basically show me all my data. If I click on 3, nothing happens. Level 2 is show me all my subtotals. So if this was a higher level manager, they don't want to know all the details about each department. They just want to know, what did accounting do, what did business do, what did finance do. So level 2, which is grouping by level 2, shows me all my subtotals. Level 1 shows me only my grand total. So maybe the president just wants to know level 1 and doesn't care about the detail. And mid-level managers want level 2 because they want to know what happened in each department. And what I can do is, if I say, well, I want to see finance had the highest value, highest wages, I can click on the plus sign for finance. So on whatever row I'm in, I click on the plus sign, and then it gives me the detail for that row. So if you click on the plus sign, it expands and shows you the detail for the row. Then the plus sign changes to minus sign, and it takes the detail away. Basically, plus means show me more information. So I'll do another one. We'll pick the lowest one, which is IT. Click on the plus, says show me all the information about IT. Then it becomes a minus. Click on the minus, hides all the detail. And again, level 3 is show me all the detail, which you still have pluses and minuses over here on the left side. And that's what Excel refers to as grouping. So on page 3 in the handout, this is what it looks like. Here's my hours worked column. Here's my total. Here's my weekly wages column. Here's my total. Here's my break subtotal, accounting total, business total, finance total. And then you would probably print that. Then to turn subtotals off, you click anywhere in your list. If you click out here, it won't work. Click anywhere inside of your list, click on subtotal. And what it does is it reselects this. If it does not reselect all your data, which is what it's doing in the homework, you might need to click on your data list again and then click on subtotal. And then remove all, and it removes the subtotals but not all the data. So now on page 4, I want to sort by highest education and get average hourly wage. So I click anywhere in my highest education column, data tab, click on A to Z, puts my AAs together, and then this is where I break from AA to AS, AS to BA. Here's my break between BA and BS, and here's my break between BS and HS. So I click anywhere in my column, click on subtotal, add each change in what I sorted by, so don't assume it's going to pick up what you sorted by. It's going to leave whatever was there last. So I sorted by highest education. I'm going to say add each change in highest education, use function. This time I'm going to do average, and this time I want to turn on hourly wage and turn off the other two. Leave everything else the same, hit OK. So then I have all my AAs and the AA average because I said average, and then there's the average hourly wage. And the other two are turned off, so I don't have any values. Here's my break between AS and BA, AS average, average hourly wage, BA average, average hourly wage, etc. And then again, my grand totals at the bottom. So on page 6, I talk about problems and solutions. If you end up getting something that looks like this and has lots of different subtotals, that's usually a problem because you shouldn't have, in this case, you should only have 5 subtotals. So if you have too many subtotals, this is how you got it. So this is what you should not do. So I'm going to turn subtotal off. Just click on the subtotal button and click on remove all. I'm going to sort on another field just to force it to be wrong. And now if I go to highest education and I didn't sort first, this is what will happen. I click on subtotal, add each change in highest education, use average, hourly wage, hit OK. And then I end up with a bunch of subtotals because it went from AA to AS, there's a break, AS to BA, there's a break, BA to BS, there's a break. And if I scroll down, it kept switching. So here's AA again. So if I don't sort it first, every time it changes from one value to another, it does the subtotal. So make sure you sort it first and then do the subtotal after. Problem solution on page 7 is similar, where you sorted it, but then you didn't change the value of the subtotal. So I'm going to turn subtotal off. Remove, just click on the subtotal button, click on remove all, get rid of all your subtotals. And I'm going to sort by hire date, descending, again, just to force it to be wrong. And then I'm going to go to subtotal. If I don't change anything here and I hit OK, I get lots of subtotals because I said by highest education. I can tell because I've got BA average and highest education. I've got BA, B average, BS average, AS, BS average again, B average again. So the reason I got this error is I click on subtotal. I didn't change this at each change in. So if I sorted by hire date, I would have to say at each change in hire date. So make sure you check the values in each of these entries and don't just assume it's going to be right, because if you sort it, you also have to tell it here that you sorted it. I'm going to remove all. Gets rid of all my subtotals. So subtotals adds information. It doesn't take anything out of what's already there. I'm going to go back to subtotal by department, bottom of page 7. I'm going to sort it by department first, and then go to subtotal. At each change in, make sure you change that here. This is probably the most common error. Change what you sorted it by, and I'm going to go back to total so it matches the directions, and turn on the last 3 entries. So it'll subtotal everything, but usually you just want to subtotal values, otherwise it wouldn't make much sense. So then I have accounting total, sorted by accounting department. This is where it switched or broke between accounting and business, and I turned on those 3 fields. Another feature you can do that's pretty cool is you can turn on page break between groups, and that'll print each group as a separate page. So I'm anywhere in my list, click on subtotal, and each change in department, use sum, and I've got all these turned on, replace current subtotals turned on. Page break between groups. And what this will do is every time there's a group, there's a break, accounting total, business total, it'll print this on a separate page. And hit OK. Does not look any different here. You can kind of see that there's a line there, but the easiest way to tell is go to print preview. So file, in print, I can see here's my information for accounting, here's my information for business, here's my information for finance, etc. And on the last page, I get all the information for purchasing and the grand total. Notice though, there's no heading, so you still need to turn on print titles because Excel won't do that for you. So now I'm going to go back to the page layout tab, go to print titles, and I want to print row 1 at the top of every page, and I want to print column A and B at the left side of every page. Hit OK. Now if I go back to print preview, here's all my information on row 1 for accounting, and then I can give that to the accounting department. All my information for row 2 with the headings goes to the business department. This would go to the finance department, and this would go to the IT department. So instead of everybody getting all the information, I can print each on a separate page and just give that to the department that needs it. And that was under data, subtotal, page break between groups. So every time there's a break, it actually prints that group on a separate page. The only other thing I didn't show you was this. So I'm in the data list, click on subtotal. If I turn summary below data off, what it does is it puts the grand total at the top. So I hit OK, and there you are. So the grand total shows up at the top, which is just kind of weird. So it's not that it turns it off, it just doesn't display it at the bottom anymore. So I usually leave that one on. Remember, when you're doing this is to click on remove all before you do the next one. And that's kind of what you need to know about subtotals. Very easy. Thank you.